أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We will begin today's session, today's discussion with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad for Amir al-Mu'mineen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا حبيب الله. Peace and blessings be upon you, Ya Rasul Allah. Peace and blessings be upon you, O beloved of Allah. Sallallahu alayka ya mawlai. وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله الحسين وعلى أهل بيتك المظلومين وعلى التسعة المعصومين من ولدك. Peace and blessings be upon you, Ya Aba Abdullah al-Husayn. Peace and blessings be upon you and your blessed progeny. Peace and blessings be upon you and the 9 Imams from your lineage. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أمير المؤمنين. Peace and blessings be upon you, O my master and the son of my master, Amir al-Mu'mineen. السلام عليك يا ولي الله. السلام عليك يا خليفة الله. السلام عليك يا إمام المتقين. السلام عليك أيها المغدور به. السلام عليك يا مولاي. السلام عليك يا من أظلمت الدنيا لفراقه وتهدمت بعده أركان الهدى. Peace and blessings be upon you, O Master of human beings on earth. Peace be upon you, O the Caliph of Allah. Peace be upon you, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Prince of Believers. Peace be upon you, O you who was the one that after his death the world darkened. Peace be upon you, O you who is the one after whose death the pillars of guidance fell to the ground. Assalamu alayka ya mawlai يا علي بن أبي طالب ورحمة الله وبركاته. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. For the love of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Let's have a loud salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli. Yesterday, my brothers and sisters, we asked a question to sort of begin the sessions that are to come, and also for us to build on it today. And the question that we asked, my brothers and sisters, is why do you worship? Although in the beginning just seems merely argumental, the premise of the question, my brothers and sisters, is extremely important to understand. And we said the premise of the question is this: will you prove the existence of God? You know that He exists. You know where the truth lies. What is that connection now between the belief that you have and the worship that you do? As in, why is it that after you believe, this belief has brought about something called worship? Where's the connection between the two? Where's the correlation between the two? Where you find that belief and action, yes, in the outside world, you find there's a direct correlation. But just because you find a direct correlation most of the time, it does not necessarily mean there's no incentive, there's no reason, there's no cause, there's no connection bridging the two together. As in, just because in the outside world you see that to every belief there's some sort of manifestation or action, that doesn't mean that to every belief there is an action that corresponds. Rather, sometimes you believe and the action does not sprout from that belief. Rather, they're mutually exclusive, where the action will come not necessarily from that belief. From there, we segued and said, well, why then do you worship? Is it merely cultural? Is it traditional? Is it something that our parents instilled in us? May God bless them for what they've instilled in us, which is not wrong. But is that now the incentive? Is that the reason that we worship? Or is there more? Is there understanding behind it? And we said the value of someone's worship is directly relative to the ma'rifah, the understanding that they have, the knowledge that they have. Jameel. We said each and every one of us should ask ourselves, is our worship merely robotic? When I say salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, for example, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, are they just words that come out of my mouth and I'm not thinking about what they mean? Is it merely robotic and reactive? Is our worship, we're just reactive, merely reactive to the stimuli in the outside world? One of them ultimately being the subconscious nature we have and the belief that we have that this is correct versus incorrect because of what was instilled in us. We more or less presented the question, and we said that worship, my brothers and sisters, is something that we morally see obligatory on us for many, many reasons, and you can put down many, many reasons. Before that, we defined what worship was. Before the reasons, before we laid them out, we defined worship, and we said worship is comprised of two things. When these two things come together, that's when you have worship. First is humbling oneself to something or someone, to God, whatever it may be that you're worshiping. Does not necessarily have to be God himself. Worshiping is A, humbling oneself to this being, one. And then two, or B, is with the belief that this thing or this being is the source of benefit and harm, the ultimate source of benefit and harm. So worship itself is comprised of an action linked to a belief. Jameel. Then we segued and said, to every action in the outside world, there is two aspects to it, or two meanings that you can derive from the action. One is a symbolic meaning, and one is the effect of that action on the outside world. So how it manifests itself in the outside world. We gave the example of going to school. If you go to school and you get a degree, that symbolizes something. And it has an effect in the outside world. What does it symbolize? Your passion for knowledge. Your importance, the importance you see for knowledge. Jameel. What does it give you in the outside world? Well, a degree, ultimately a job, ultimately a livelihood. Worship does the same. We said that worship symbolizes something and brings about an effect in the outside world. What does it symbolize? It symbolizes thanks. It is the ultimate symbol of gratitude to the being that has given you. And that gratitude, that thankfulness, giving thanks, we said is a moral obligation on every human being. And the person who does not give thanks, does not give gratitude, is seen as immoral, unethical, and ultimately bad. Jameel. What does it give me in the outside world? Well, we said that worship is linking, connecting to the being that ultimately holds benefit and harm. Therefore, worship itself brings about that benefit and acts as a shield from harm. This is what we discussed, Taban. We went much more in deep depth than this, but more or less to jog your memory. Jameel, tonight, adding on to what we discussed yesterday, we're going to ask another question. Stay with me. Before I ask you the question, sometimes, my brothers and sisters, we think two words mean the same thing, but they don't. Especially in the Arabic language, there's nothing called synonyms, according to some ulama. We don't have synonyms. Every word has its own specific meaning. Even if they're very, very similar in meaning, there is one ultimate difference between the two words. That's why they have two words for those meanings. Jameel. In the English language, you can kind of understand it in the very same way. We have synonyms, but if you go deep down into the meaning, you'll find some difference. Jameel. Here's the question. I said all this to introduce the question. You are worshiping, but are you praying? Some of you are asking, like, what does that even mean? That's like, it's like positive and negative canceling out. Like, what does that actually mean? You are worshiping, but are you praying? We are not only asked to worship, well, we are asked to pray. Like, what is it that you are doing? Are you merely worshiping? Or are you praying? This question, my brothers and sisters, is also one of the most important questions. And out of the, how long we've been going for now, maybe 20 some odd lectures. Out of the 20 some odd lectures, this here is the question that we all need to answer. And it's probably one of the most practical lectures you're going to receive all of Shahr Ramadan from this humble servant. And if you want any lecture that is going to ultimately benefit you for the rest of your life, it's this discussion right here. Are you worshiping or are you praying? Jimmy, let me define the terms of the question so the question becomes clear. What's the difference between worshiping and praying? Well, we defined worshiping. And we said it's any act whatsoever. That means the two conditions that we laid down. Like, what is praying? Well, praying is a special type and a special form of worship in which, in the way Muslims do it, you stand to a certain direction, you put your hands up, say Allahu Akbar, recite certain things, you bow, you do prostration, etc., etc., etc. You do certain actions in certain ways. And so, sorry, no COVID, I swear. And so, worship and prayer, my brothers and sisters, is what we call, or between the two ideas, between the two concepts, there is what we call umum wa khusus mutlaq. Umum wa khusus mutlaq. What does that mean? One of the two ideas is broader than the other and totally encompasses the other. But it also encompasses other things as well. Worship encompasses prayer, but worship also encompasses sacrifice, also encompasses giving thanks in any other way, also encompasses charity, encompasses many other forms of worship, because the definition of worship is broader than the definition of prayer. Prayer is a special form of worship. So we say the circle of worship is greater, wider than the circle of prayer. Jameel. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does He want you to worship or does He want you to pray? Think of the question. Stay with me. Think of the question. Does God want you to worship or does God want you to pray? If God wanted me and you to worship, then any form of gratitude is enough. Any form of showing thanks, showing gratitude is enough. If God wanted me to pray, no, it's a specific form. So question, is worship enough? Type. Start from the beginning, then we'll lead to where we are. We said we believe in God. Type. What's the incentive to worship? We made that clear. Now we know what the incentive to worship is, why you worship. Why? From belief we came to worship. Type. This worship that we have a clear incentive to do. Why does it have to be in a specific form? And this question, my brothers and sisters, for some is obvious. For other people, no. For especially youth. Well, what's the difference? Why do I have to do this in this way and this in that way? Why is it these little tiny things that I have to do that make my worship correct or incorrect? Why is God so, wal-'iyadh billah, why is He so picky? Why? What's the reason for this? Why do I have to worship God in this way? Why can I not be free in my expression of worship and gratitude? These are questions, my brothers and sisters, that are asked every day. And by the way, this idea of freedom of expression is one that is used and hijacked, honestly, especially in religion. That this is my method of expression. This is the way that I express myself. Why should I be confined to a specific way of showing gratitude? I can be a good person. I can treat my fellow brother and sister well, and that is enough for a religious person. Why do I have to pray in this specific manner? No, I can believe God in my heart. Religion is in my heart. I don't have to manifest it in one way or another. I don't have to follow the rules. I don't have to do this. Religion is in my heart. I choose. Look, what's the word? I choose to show my gratitude, my love for God and His religion in the way I see fit. I don't have to wear hijab. I don't have to observe hijab for the brothers. I don't have to pray. I don't have to fast. I don't have to go to Hajj. Religion is in the heart. And the way I choose to manifest that gratitude is entirely up to me. Freedom of expression. Freedom of expression. And so you find people use this term, freedom of expression, hijack it, and start to mold their idea of religion and the practical aspect of religion, behind religion, to their desires. Under this title, under this decorative term of freedom of expression. By the way, freedom of expression in religion is very limited. I don't want to say very, I'll say limited. Limited to the rules. Limited to haram and halal. Jameel, not every form of expression is halal. Not every form of expression is good and okay and accepted. We as human beings, naturally, in the free world that we live in today, with a world that gives you no limits to expression whatsoever, we know, morally speaking, there's methods of expression that are wrong. Even if they don't hurt anyone, even if they don't infringe on the rights of others, there's methods of expression that are wrong. But because this term is so easily said and so easily accepted as a reason to do whatever you want, it has made its way also into the religion as well, through the minds of people, through the way that people think, some people think. And so they come forward and they say the way that we want to express ourselves is our own choice, and therefore our worship is our own choice. And religion is in the heart. You don't know how many times I've heard that. Religion is in the heart, you can't judge me. Religion is in the heart, you can't judge me. You're doing haram. You are literally holding a sandwich that has pork in it. No, you can't judge me if religion is the heart. Brother, you're not observing your hijab. You're literally looking at another man's wife. No, religion is in the heart, you can't judge me. Sister, you're not wearing your hijab. This is actually haram. No, you can't judge. Everyone brings it about in this way. How do we go about looking at this and discussing objectively? How do we go about answering this for ourselves? We're not refuting and discussing and debating. No, we're talking to ourselves, and I'm talking to myself right now, quite literally, because the screen is in front of me and I'm seeing myself speak. So how do I answer this question? With this example. Listen. Let's say we had a village. In that village, there was a mix of Christians and Muslims, just like many of the villages that we have in Lebanon and in other parts of the world, Iraq, other parts of the world. Many villages up until today, Christians and Muslims live together. We're not talking in the city. We're talking in a small village, Jimmy. The head of that village is a Muslim scholar who is just with all of the inhabitants of that village and protects the people of that village, not in accordance to their belief. Rather, they are all his neighbors, all his family, and so he protects them all equally. Jamil. This person is a very pious scholar, as we said, and not just very pious, not just very, very pious, is very strict with his religion, as we all should be. Does not allow pork in his house, does not allow wine in his house, does not allow any haram whatsoever to enter his domain. What happens outside of his house, he can't stop. He can do nahi anil munkar, but if the fellow Christian brothers and sisters or the fellow Christians there, they want to drink, they want to do this, he can't stop them. In his home, he does not allow it because his religion does not allow such a thing. Jameel. This village one day was attacked by the inhabitants of another village. They came to the wall of the village and they put that village under siege. Jameel. Everyone is starving inside the village. Everyone is suffering inside that village because of the inhabitants of another village who are sieging them. Jameel. That scholar comes out of his home. He goes to the wall of the village. He meets with the ferocious siegers or those that are standing in front of him, and he strikes a deal. And he saves everyone in the village, Christian, Muslim alike. Jameel. There's a point, so keep listening. They go back to the home. He sits in his home. All of a sudden, he hears the roaring of people outside of his door. He goes to the door, opens the door, and he sees everyone chanting his name. They all want to come in and thank him for what he has done. Jameel. He goes back into his home, sits down, and the people start coming in one by one, thanking him. A man comes in holding a wine bottle and presents it to the scholar as a present. Another man comes in and he's holding a pig. They're villagers, holding a pig. He presents it to the scholar. Puts it in front of the scholar in his home. Another woman or man comes in and they have, for example, a musical instrument. Present it to a scholar. And lastly, a man comes in with a bowl of meat. What's that meat? Meat, pork. Present it to the scholar. I want to ask you a question. This scholar right now, is he smiling or is he fuming? Or, not fuming, put fuming aside because he has akhlaq, right? Is he smiling or is he uncomfortable with the wine that's in his home, with the pork, with the musical instruments, and with the pig, najasa? Is he comfortable? Jameel. Obviously not comfortable. These are gifts. These are not symbols of gratitude. We said everything symbolizes something and has an effect on the outside world. Jameel. These are all not symbols of gratitude. That villager probably paid everything he had for that pig. That villager probably kept that wine bottle in his cellar for 50 years and now broke it out and gave it to the scholar. That person that killed his only pig made it into whatever dish he made it and presented it to the scholar. That was his only pig. Are these not symbols of gratitude? Like, why is the scholar not happy? Because these symbols of gratitude do not correspond. What's the word? Do not correspond with the one that you are showing gratitude towards. For something to be considered the adequate symbol of gratitude, it must correspond with the person that you are presenting that gift to. There has to be some sort of correspondence or corresponding. There has to be some sort of equalness, or they have to match in some way. That's the word I'm trying to say. Fine. They have to match in some way. They have to fit together in some way. They have to be in one way or another counterparts of each other. The gift must be adequate for the one you are gifting the object to. And so this scholar, although he understands that behind it is gratitude and the outside world, is he happy or is he uncomfortable? Does he feel gratitude or does he feel insulted? Sometimes, my brothers and sisters, what we want to bring as gratitude can come off as an insult. As an insult. You want me to show you how it can also be more of an insult? Imagine one of those men comes in with a picture, wal-'iyadh billah, of a person, of a woman, dressed in a very, very, very provocative manner, and presents it to the scholar. Is that not insulting? More, put that aside. Let's say someone doesn't know that the Quran is the book for the Muslimin. This guy doesn't know anything. So he comes, he brings this person a Quran and an arrow through it. Wal-'iyadh billah. Thinking that Muslims hate the Quran. That Muslims think that the Quran is a pagan book. So what does he want to do? He wants to present the scholar. He wants to present the scholar with a symbol of loyalty. You don't like this book called the Quran, therefore I'm going to get you a Quran with an arrow through it to show you my loyalty. Not knowing that the Quran is the book of the Muslimin. There's gratitude behind it. There's gratitude behind it. He's showing his gratitude. But what's he showing his gratitude by doing? Insulting. Jameel. Jameel. So now we understand that the gift must be adequate for the one you are gifting this object to. Jameel. Jameel. This scholar, if he was to get an adequate present, it would have happened in two ways from these villagers that are Christian. Would have happened in two ways. By chance, or the person who wants to give the present asks, "Hey, what's an adequate present for this guy?" To us, it's wine bottles. What is it for you? What do you consider valuable? They ask, what is an adequate present for the scholar? And who better than to ask than the scholar himself? Let's say they had to give a present. It was part of their tradition. They must, and the scholar must accept. The scholar says, no, I don't want it. And they persist. Hey, give me anything. Give me a cow. He wouldn't say something haram. He wouldn't say something insulting. He wouldn't say, give me a wine bottle. Give me anything that you have. Give me whatever, a chicken. Like, now you know that a chicken is adequate because he himself said, give me a chicken. Give me a chicken. Like, when it comes to our religion, my brothers and sisters, the same exact logic applies. The gift must be adequate for the one you are gifting this thing to. And who better than to tell you what is adequate than the person you're gifting to, the person you're trying to show gratitude towards. The problem is, my brothers and sisters, we think we understand God. We think that, oh, this works. Why do you think it works? Why do you think that this is okay to do? To you, this is okay. Sure, maybe if somebody did that to you, yes. But there's no comparison between you and God. We think we know God because, again, we humanize God. We subconsciously, consciously, we humanize God. And so we think that this is adequate. Like, why? Because I think so. Like, are you a God? Are you a deity? What do you know about what is adequate to someone that you don't know anything about. The same way that the Christians knew nothing about the pious scholar. So they insulted him. So they just insulted him. And even if the scholar got something, it was nice, but he knew it was just by chance. These guys didn't know what they were doing. They just picked something off the shelf. It has no value anymore. Because the symbolism behind it is gone. There was no thought into the present, the gift that was given. When it comes to our ibadah, when it comes to our worship, the same rules apply. Same rules apply. What does God want? Not what do I see fit. Not what do I see fit. What I see fit may not be what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. And that's why Allah ta'ala, He came down and He said, listen, you want to show gratitude? Do this. Pray 5 times a day. Pray 5 times a day, and I'm not going to make it hard on you. Give me 5 minutes of your day. Give me 5 minutes of your day during the daytime, 5 minutes at night, and give me 2 minutes in the morning. That's it. Before you go to work, pray and go home. Or go to work, sorry. And I want you to pray in this manner. I want you to clean yourself. I want you to make yourself presentable. I want you to stand up in this manner and do it in this way. Because this is the best. You want to thank me, this is the best possible thanking that you can do. And ultimately, that method is going to benefit you. It's not going to benefit me. And so, my brothers and sisters, for us to truly be worshiping Allah in the way that He wants, we must be praying. And prayer is the act that is done in the specific manner in accordance to specific conditions. In accordance to specific conditions with specific prerequisites. Has to be done in that specific way. Tayyib, some people come and say, why is it so, wal-'ayadh billah, nitpicky? Why is it so picky? What, astaghfirullah, saying it like this, but why is God so picky? Why does it have to be in this way? And I'm saying it because a lot of people ask, and a lot of people think it, but nobody wants to say it. And it's okay to ask. Why are things so specific that if you make a mistake, even if you didn't know, in some cases your salat is batil? Why? Think of it like this, my brothers and sisters. This analogy, perfectly serves us. These are the keys to my house. This is the key to my house. And this is the key to the hawza, right here. Sah, Jami. When you look at keys, they look quite similar. A little different, but generally speaking, the general shape of the key is quite similar. But if I took the key to my house and tried to put it in the door, in the lock of the mu'assasa, will it open? It wouldn't open. It's not going to open. It'll never open. Why? Because to every lock, there's a corresponding key. Similarly, if I took the key to the hawza and I tried to jam it in the door, my house, is it going to open? It's not going to. Jimmy, it's not going to open. If it's not going to open, then what must I do? I must take the right key and put it in the right lock. Although the two keys look very similar in their pattern, very similar, it's not that different. The keys have very similar teeth, very similar patterns. But if you take a microscope, you take a small measuring device or a very accurate, precise measuring device, you're going to see that there may be one tooth that's off, mathalan. That one tooth is stopping you from opening the door. The key to Jannah is your paradise. The key to Jannah is your salat. The key to paradise is your prayer. The prayer must be done in a specific way, just the same way that the key must have a very specific shape. Whether you knew or you did not know, taking the key to the hawza, to the house, is not going to open the door. Not to say that every mistake in salat that's done is going to make your salat batil. No, there are some mistakes that are what we call mughtafara. It's okay. If you have an excuse, you have an excuse. Others, no, you have an excuse. You don't have an excuse. It's batil. It's wrong. Khalas, it's done. The salat is done. What I'm trying to say, my brothers and sisters, not just know the value of the salat. Know that you're praying correctly. Know that what you are doing is actually salat. Know that what you're doing is actually salat. Somebody comes and says, this man has been praying for X amount of years, 3-4 years, mathalan. And he's been doing this wrong. Like, yeah, his salat is batil. I can't say anything more to it than that. Oh, so all those years went out the window. What was he doing? He was standing in front of God. He was worshiping. Not worshiping in the right manner. He just wasn't praying. He was worshiping, but he wasn't praying. That's the difference. He was worshiping. Yes, 100% he was worshiping. Maybe Allah Ta'ala will reward him for the fact that he's worshiping, showing gratitude. But is he praying? No. God asked him to pray, not worship. Not just worship. No, he wants you to pray. And so there are common mistakes that people do in their salat, and they don't know. And they don't know. And they don't know until after. So after they come and they say, Shaykhna, what happens with my salat? And I sit with look at this person. And what am I supposed to tell? What am I supposed to tell? Salat's batil for the last 4 or 5 years. It's difficult, but it's the reality. So there are things that people do that I'm going to point out right now. Right now, we're going to point them out. And if you're doing them, fix them. Fix them so that your worship is actually prayer and not just merely worship. Some of the most common mistakes, my brothers and sisters, happen in salat. But most of them actually don't happen in salat itself. Most of them happen before. As in, they don't get to the salat. They don't even get to salat. It's before. It's before. What do I mean before? In the simplest things like tahara, najasa, okay, wash yourself, fine. Wudu. Wudu is one of the most commonly misdone or incorrectly done actions in our religion. By young and old. Young and old. By non-religious and the most religious. And I've seen it with my own eyes. I'm telling you, I've seen it with my own eyes. Sometimes it's harder to watch the religious person do wudu. I'm not kidding. Literally. Sometimes it's harder to see the religious person do wudu and not the non-religious person. The non-religious person, type, you understand this person is not coming to the mosque. He's not in the environment. This religious man or religious sister doing wudu, it's the hardest thing to watch sometimes. Very simply, my brothers and sisters. Very simply. Wudu is the key to salat. Essentially, your key to heaven is locked in a safe. The key to heaven is locked in a safe. Opening that safe is wudu. Open your safe, get that key, go to heaven, khalasna, that's it. Do it right. Do it correctly. How to do wudu? Very simply. Al-wudu ghaslatan wa mashatan. Wudu is 2 washes and 2 wipes. Very simply done. We all know how to do it. But there are common mistakes that we do. Number one is washing the face. Washing the face more than twice. Washing the right arm more than twice. And out of precaution, not washing the left arm more than once. These things are commonly done and I see them a lot. One time I walked into the hawza. I always tell the story when I'm discussing this topic. One time I walked into the hawza, walked into the bathroom. This guy was probably 40 years old. He was doing wudu in the bathroom. And I saw him, he was washing his, I think he was washing his face and then he was washing his arms. He washed his face literally like 5 times. And washed his arm, both arms, so much that the mirrors were wet. And by the way, this guy was bald. So I don't know how he's gonna wipe on his head after. He was bald, so everything was wet. The walls, the ceiling. Whoever came after him thought that there was a water balloon fight in that bathroom. I'm not kidding. If somebody walked in, they would have thought there was a water balloon fight in that bathroom. This man was washing everything, not just his hands and face. When I looked at this person, I said, why are you doing all of this? I just look at him and I'm just dumbfounded. Just wash your face. Wash your arms twice. Simple. Another common mistake, my brothers and sisters, is getting new water to wipe. Put your hand under the sink and then wipe. No. It's with the residue water. Tayyib. Another common mistake that many of us do, and I'm sure, statistically speaking, 50% of the people that are watching do this. Yes. Statistically speaking, I found almost 50% of people that listen to this discussion do this mistake. When you're done washing your left arm, how do you turn off the sink? If you turn it off with your right hand, when the sink is wet, you essentially introduce new water onto your hand. You can't take that water and wipe now. So how are you shutting off your sink? Are you shutting it off with your elbow, right? Or are you shutting it off if it's one of those ones that you lift up? Are you shutting it off with the back of your hand? How are you shutting it off? If you're shutting it off with your hand, you're pretty much messing up your wudu. Because again, you're introducing new water. If that tap is wet, if it's not wet, it's dry, something different. But 9 times out of 10, it's going to get wet. When I shut it off with my hand, like I can't use this hand to wipe anymore. Because as I said, I introduced new water to the wudu. It's essentially the same as me putting my hand under the tap and wiping my head. It's the same idea. This mistake is so common. I see it with the elders of the community. So watch out from this. Another thing is people, when they wipe, they allow their hand to touch their face after. Again, you're introducing new water. Yes, it's from your face, but it's introducing new water to your hand. Then you can't use that hand to wipe your feet. Most of the problems in salat happen in wudu. The problems in salat itself, and we're almost done. The most common mistakes in salat. Saying something simple as Allahu Akbar incorrectly. Takbirat al-ihram, my brothers and sisters, is what we call from arkan al-salat. It's a rukun from arkan al-salat. It's one of the pillars of salat. If it's wrong, the entire salat is wrong. Saying takbirat al-ihram is one of the things in salat that a person must know how to do correctly. If you have an accent and you're unable to physically say it, then you have to say it in the best possible way. Okay. And you can't learn how to say it correctly, fine. You're unable to learn, you just can't, it just doesn't work. You can't say it correctly, fine, okay. Something totally different. There's an excuse. Most of us can say Allahu Akbar. Most people, I've even heard Arabs make a mistake with it. I've even, to the degree, or if you go open up the Sayyid Sistani's Minhaj, he says, you can't say it like this. You can't say it like this. You can't say it like this. You have to say it like this. He gives you like 3-4 examples of the ways that you can't say it. Because it's so common, even amongst Arab-speaking people, to say it incorrectly. Make sure you're saying it correctly. Similarly, another mistake is in ruku' and sujood, people moving their hands, moving their feet. One of the conditions of ruku', one of the conditions of sujood is that you have what we call tuma'nina, al-istiqrar, that you're not moving, that you're not jittery, that you're not moving your hands to a point where somebody actually says you're moving. Slight movements are okay. But moving to a point where somebody sees you and says, okay, Tayyib, he's moving, he's playing with his beard. Oh my God, doing wudu and playing with your beard, you see it. Or playing with your hands, they're playing piano while they're doing ruku'. Brothers and sisters, it's funny, but you see it. You see it a lot. You can't move your hands and feet. Especially in sujood, you can't be lifting your hands, feet, toes off the ground. Because this is what we call the masajid al-sab'ah. These are the 7 things that must be touching the ground the entire time for the sujood to be correct. For the sujood to be correct. Again, common mistakes. Another one is reciting Surah Al-Fatiha incorrectly. Oh my God. With all due respect to all of my brothers, all of the scholars, even scholars, some people, some of those who wear the amama, even make mistakes with this. And I'm not kidding. And I'm not saying this as a knock on anyone. But I'm telling you as how bad it is. How bad these common mistakes are. If people that are wearing the amama are making mistakes in these, then the common person surely is. I'm saying this to emphasize, not a knock on any of the scholars, not our maraja, no. Not a knock on them whatsoever. But some comments, mu'ammamin, they don't notice, they make this mistake. And it's common, so common. So it's very common to see the layman's person as well, the normal person, the religious person, also make this mistake. Surah Al-Fatiha must be said correctly, pronounced correctly. Makharij al-huruf must be done correctly. The way that the harf, the letter is said, must be done correctly as well. Again, these are common mistakes, okay? So just brothers and sisters, although you've been praying maybe for 20 years, sit down with yourself. Sit down with yourself. Ask yourself, am I making one of these mistakes? And do this. Go on YouTube. Find somebody praying, or one of the scholars praying, one of our scholars, not just any person, one of our actual scholars praying, and see. Am I doing it correctly? Am I saying it correctly? Listen to someone reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. Am I saying it the way he's saying it or she's saying it? If it's a sister. If it's a sister listening to another sister. Am I saying Takbirat al-Ihram correctly? Ask yourself these now so that you don't ask them later. So you don't ask them later. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وأسأله تعالى يعفو عنا ويغفر لنا ويرحمنا إنه نعم المولى ونعم النصير وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين.